She called lunch man. Group. Yeah.
Yes, and that makes a difference. You have to be willing to.
Are people really get into it?
The bylaws say.
Oh, no, that's not hard. I heard they had one at APL. I went through the interview. Said something about a first match, but I didn't really know what it was. I was like,
Yeah, no.
Well, you're already a good speaker, but I think everybody can like work on it.
Yeah, well, the thing that. So
Some of that actually is. There's competitions. So you're saying you're gonna win. I think there's cash prizes. Oh, national.
good luck. It's the whole thing. Like, so there's like, so the one that's paid for is like affiliated with like that.
There are.
Fraternal order.
But you can't get serious.
And then if you're a distinguished Toastmaster, you're listed on people that might get called to keynote. And do like professional speaking. And you interact with a lot of people, so if you're good, I'd write on this person's good. You'd be good with this. It's actually I haven't ever heard of it today. I wasn't.
You don't do that?
The problem is I do it. What I was doing.
I'm doing so white.
I did these presentations. Well, when I was in school, I was no place. I was shy. I was in the same room. That's a whole party. I organized a speech competition that I can believe.
Another guy.
Yeah. Institute of Electricians and Electrical.
Yeah, but a good company.
You can imagine what.
Oh my God.
Anyway, while we're recording, so.
Or you can follow on live.
Third place out of 3.
That's pretty fast.
That was like running that stupid. So the judges did that. And they're
Well, you should be back for the keynote speaker. You probably know the content.
It was. I'm hoping today I won't be 5 out of 5. No, it's not a competition. It's fine. But then anyway, so I had to do like my dissertation on it. With that hanging on my shoulders. Oh no. Anyway, so I got better and better. But then once I started, I got better a lot of the issues that I had. Yeah, that's great. Not that I wanted to, but in some of the briefs I had given my technical director there, she said that was great. Is that what you get from it? Yeah, just say big.
Or if you go like this or something, it's like a or you have a clicker in your pocket. Perfect. That's perfect. That works. So take her advice. Yeah.
Oh, that's the next question.
Class right now. Self-managing your own stuff. Dealing with the environment.
I have no idea what it is.
And then you miss an
If I could build out.
Yeah.
But if I could build out.
And then I could just bring them all home, I can put them on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also got an SUV too. I've got an SUV, especially the video camera. When it's a big cloud.
Oh, yeah.
Next Saturday.
Yeah.
I think if there's loads of space, I don't know.
Cool. Yeah, right.
So we're doing a class.
Recording, massage.
Oh my God.
Dinner, and then we're going home.
Yeah, that is the act.
I have to take it. Or engage for a second. No, maybe, before we. What they really want to do.
The reason why I asked is there's actually the author of the book I'm telling you about. He is the coach.
Okay, what is that?
We have a rare.
Yeah, I want to put a cat by you.
I could have read it like 19 times.
It is a really rare opportunity to FaceTime or even hear him speak. His name is Rush. And then we've been pretty huge. And he's my other professor for this class. Anyway, it's kind of interesting. If you're interested,
I think I am interested in those things, and I think I got Mason, right?
yeah.
And I think we're gonna be friends on LinkedIn after one of the, but I just never contacted you or anything, but I definitely want to talk more. And I want to see if we can get you to come to SCC to talk about something. So actually, I'm interested in starting this out. So I'm gonna talk about the one thing that I did there today, but I'm starting another one, and I think it's gonna be more like strategic, like change management in our organization. I'm
Interesting.
really excited about it.
Yeah.
Do you have any? Yeah, please send
Sure.
It's up to you.
Yeah, it's just a few slides.
I have an internet connection.
Okay, and you have, okay.
You have an Apple though.
Yeah, but that shouldn't matter because
I got another business card from my last trip. Maybe we can try our best. So, I've got my computer hooked up to the internet too. If we want to
Okay.
use that one, we can switch out to.
What is your, does your laptop have a video card, or is it, do you know what the specs are for it at all?
What?
How new is it? Because this one, I wonder if my, so here's our feed, right? It's okay. I mean, it works, and this is a good enough being the enemy of perfection. This is good enough.
Now, you know, this is
Doing a secondary feed right there.
this is probably better to do this one because that is my government laptop.
Oh, okay, yeah, then no problem.
So
Yep, that's fine. We can't use that, so no worries. One of the things that's right. I'm trying to bring up the schedule. And so it's a design. Very long day. On the west gate. Yeah, it has a solar sail. It's wind and solar power. It's branded, it's called. It's great. Yeah, the idea is you can deploy it as fall. Take it, kind of deploy it off the shed. And then what I would do is actually after you deploy the sail.
Oh, yeah. Brother Weiser?
Several years ago, it's one.
Yeah.
He used to be out here. Miss it. Yeah.
Where'd you come
So So when there wasn't wind. And also has control of it.
Networking window.
They invest a lot of money. The problem is they say, well, it's small. It's just basically it's on the front. And actually they remote that. And they actually started from the design on the stuff. That's perfect for regular sale frame. It showed that you do it, and they started streamlining that sale frame.
Yeah.
I don't know how to build it, and they said, well, great. This small.
Boom.
Yeah, I heard. And were they videotaped?
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna watch it.
Typical thing we had. We did a skit. It was a typical thing we had. I think we did a skit. It was like Beatles silence.
How you doing? Doing all right. Is this okay in here? Okay. We started setting up in there, and the guys were like, "This is really good out here." The space was awesome. So if it gets busy, we can certainly move back in. Are you expecting people? I think so far, I think 15 minutes. So. Yeah.
So if you want to see those guys, that's the reason so you got a 9 o'clock back home. Right. And so one thing we said is, how can we make it forward? Yeah. To show stuff. So normally you gotta prove that every day. Or, and you put that to the West Coast, and it's like, you want internet. You basically get a proof that it's there.
You ever get that cable? I just opened up my email. For the Ethernet cable? I didn't, but it'll be okay. I can run to the store and get one. No, and that's what I didn't want anybody to do. It was just simply if you have any, then great. And
If you need to let me know.
I'm spotting it to plug into. I think the real constraint here is my laptop, because it's a pretty cheap laptop. But the point is, it should get decent streaming. And this is the good enough solution. The camera and the microphones are the polished solution. So I just got to figure out how to.
There's something big out of that.
Yeah, there's a couple of people. Oh, I see. Yeah, I don't think it's long. I've got it working now, so I'm not gonna.
Any ATs?
Yeah, I think give me some time.
Put it up, you're gonna try and push Oki might be. Or either it's UK. Okay, so I think it's fine now. One of the things is how do you say
Yeah, John Curtis.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably, good. I'm gonna, so I've got to see what there, so.
So, for example,
I have to do today, so.
all this stuff. Venture capital.
That area next to you. Got me so much more.
It's not too hot. So that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So big.
Very important.
Are you gonna clean up anything?
They don't, what CSO,
Sure.
but, it's a typical route, be on so much for, fine for. Really like to get to see. No, I have a little. He tried. No, I do like my first appointment. Yeah, we.
Just for charging, but he's not on this side at all.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, does this work? Like, if we do things interactively, people, wherever you're recording or you're showing it on YouTube,
Yes. So, well, the interactions, no. I'll just be doing the talks on YouTube,
yeah,
and then the interactions. I'm concerned about it being live.
okay.
Does that make sense?
So when we're talking, it should just be talking and not questioning their.
You can do Q&A.
Okay.
Certainly.
But then only, okay, but segregate instead of have it interact. So if I'm sharing I was gonna do interactive audience.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine.
Well, the audience.
Yeah, I have a handheld microphone, so that's a good question. I'll make sure that I'll take.
Okay. Okay. All right, so I just want to make sure, because when you can only hear half the.
Yeah, I hate when the person asks a question and then you don't hear them. The person just answers it. So, yeah, well, that's a great question. We can microphone up after that. I'm using it to introduce because people always want to come up
Okay.
and they talk, and then I'll just keep it down.
Just get well, some of it are, like, one thing is, well, what am I doing out there? Yeah.
That's right, selective memory. Yeah, all those are not bad. Yeah, they worry doing that. Did you, yeah.
I mean, it's.
I feel like it's sort of like when you're really going to green space. Yeah, I can't even make it to home here.
So it's not
This is where somebody will need to stay.
Yes.
Okay,
That's okay, though, 'cause I'll be over there.
Does this plug in?
It's not plugged in, we have battery chargers.
Okay.
Full battery. Should be good. And I'll be handling that, so I can move around.
And like it's
Like, did not get it.
Someone's gonna send you a text saying right here. Big week.
Oh, yeah.
I'll check it out. Wow. One thing we're gonna do is research that.
Yeah.
So this Monday is Thursday. Okay. All right, good. That's hey, you guys got a nice shot out. We'll send you links they had that, they talked about that, everybody is there for her speech about, reducing costs. So you got to mention it. So,
all right, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us this morning. My name is Jeff Anderson, and if you're thinking this microphone doesn't work, we just got set up for some later on recording. So it's not going to make my voice louder right now, but in our recordings to share on YouTube later on, it should make for a better quality show. So again, thank you all for making it to the first DefX event here in San Diego. There have been a couple on the East Coast, but I know we can tap into a lot of talent out here on the West Coast as well. Defense Entrepreneurs Forum was founded a couple years ago as a nonprofit organization to increase the ability for junior innovators, junior military leaders to find new ways of doing things by tapping into civilian innovators and entrepreneurs. So whether you have a military background or not, we welcome you to today's event and we look forward to hearing your thoughts and opinions. I want to thank a couple people before we start. So thanks to Defense Entrepreneurs Forum proper, which started in Chicago, and that's where the main event is every year. So if you're interested in doing that sometime, go ahead and follow defenseentrepreneurforum.org and find out information about that event. That's kind of the big one, whereas these are little satellite events. Especially like to thank Aaron Childers and JP Mintz. They've helped us a lot with organizing this and organizing the X events. And hopefully we're going to have more of these X events across the country as things grow. Special thank you to Ben Coleman, who founded DEF along with some of those other people, and who has also helped me a lot in getting to know some of the people out here to help make this a great event. My co-host, Eli Adelkin, was unable to make it today. He had something come up, so I am unable to properly introduce our first guest. But before we do that, I want to talk about the space we're in for a minute, just in case you haven't been here. This is Comerge Workspace, and we've used it for another group that I'm in called Disruptive Thinkers. It's an awesome workspace. I hope you're enjoying it right now. I wanted to give Michael Kenny a chance to talk about it and throw a couple words out.
Hi, welcome to Comerge Workplace. We are a creative office environment, a place for people who either work from home or have a distributed workforce plan with a larger company. We're in the creative and the collaborative workspace right now, so the idea here is that throughout the week, there are 20 or 30 or 40 other people who are just like you, sharing ideas with one another and helping each other grow their company. So we love doing events like this for Disruptive Thinkers and other folks in San Diego to help spur innovation and ideas and grow companies. So thanks for coming.
Let's give Comerge a big round of applause for this. Thanks. So before we start, I wanted to go around the room and have everybody just give a quick 10 to 15 second intro of who you are what brought you here and what you do outside. I'll start with myself, actually. My name is Jeff Anderson. I'm an electronics technician in the United States Navy. And innovation excited me because I think that a lot of our sailors have great ideas, and being able to get those ideas from the customer directly makes our nation strong enough. So,
I'm Josh Quigley, work for Spainware Systems Center Pacific, and I think innovation is important because we are in an accelerating technological age, and the only way that we're going to be able to address the challenges that we're facing now in an increasingly complex world will be to work together, those who know how to do the technology and those who know what the operational needs are. So I'm going to talk more about that today.
James Barton, also in the Navy, I'm board Benfold. The interesting thing about innovation is so we have a theme that Dave Knowles can talk about, but is that when you have innovation from the top down, it just always ends up wrong. So when you have innovation from the bottom up, you actually get a product that people can use that's not awfully screwed up and doesn't cost enormous amounts of money.
Hi, Dave Nobles. I'm also a Surface Warfare Officer on Benfold. Also founded the ENA project. I'll talk about it a little bit later. I agree with James. Dangerous is the time where innovation becomes a directive. Thou shalt innovate. It never does work out right. So I think it's important to understand the needs of the people who you're actually trying to put technology in their hands. So empathetic research and science thinking, very big on that. I think that's the best way to prepare the warfighters of tomorrow.
can I stop just for a quick second? If you're tweeting this, you do the Twitter thing and you want your laptop out, we're doing a hashtag DefXSD. So DEFXSD.
Hello, my name is David, and I've been in the Marine Corps 18 years, and I've seen some progress, but I still feel we have a lot of work to do. And I've been trying to innovate by myself, but I need help. So hopefully I can learn something here that I can pass it on to leadership.
I'm Paul Wins, former Navy pilot, about 19 years of combined active duty and reserve service. I'm in industry right now. I work as a project manager for a major defense corporation, and I specialize in rapid prototyping. I'm generally unimpressed with the top-down approach and generally unimpressed with the information and requirements generation process that I see interfacing with the military and how the sausage is made. So I'm very interested in building relationships and learning more about what's happening at the deck place, because I think that's where it's happening. That's where we're at.
Keith Henson, long ago, I was involved with an operation called the L5 Society, which is still around as a national space society. And I've been working since I retired on power satellite design, and recently made a lot of progress in that particular area.
Good morning, J.D. Christensen, active duty naval officer. Currently, the operations officer on one of the Total Combat ships. I was also a scholar based in China, and so I'm particularly interested in the China issue, and I'm excited to see what comes out there.
Tom walked in this morning. The first thing he talked to me about was an article in Defense News about Secretary of the Air Force Deborah James, who mentioned her 3 top priorities for saving the Air Force money. One of them was innovation and acquisition, agile acquisition. And these efforts you talked about is something called PlugFest. The government guy and I formed PlugFest as a volunteer effort 3 years ago, 2 people. Now we have about 300 people, and we'll be doing a PlugFest next week at West. And it's government, industry, and academia working together on the same problem at the same time together to deliver good government systems fast versus compliance systems slowly by taking the demand signal from the deck plates, taking anything, anyone that has government, industry, and academia, so we can see changes of government, putting together and building apps in 2 days, judged by a space work. And so also, Air Questridge, I'm for ESRI, the World Leading Geographic Information Systems, and I work with startup companies, including companies doing Internet of Things for energy management.
I'm Annette Mason, and I'm here to highlight like-minded individuals that have a passion for innovation. I have a consulting practice. My consulting practice focuses on innovation and acquisition. Acquisition being acquiring companies, so growth by acquisition. The reason I focus on those two areas is it's really a human-centered design problem. And with good design, iteration, and feedback, you can have some success. So I totally understand the nod from, you can't mandate it, you can't mandate innovation, you can mandate successful acquisition.
Hello, my name is Sam White. I'm a mechanical engineer over at Skateboard Systems Center Pacific. And my main interest is to find a way for people for the active duty and also civilian engineers and scientists, a way to provide their own input to larger problems throughout the Navy. For instance, RFIs, it's to try to leverage the in-house intelligence and creativity to solve these problems, even though they may not directly be involved with the actual contractual building, testing, all the logistics of creating these live, just allowing innovative minds to contribute to the session.
Hi, I'm David Sessions. I just graduated from Duke in May, and I'm the faculty law science standards. I'm interested in basically just kind of interacting with all these thought leaders, being able to understand exactly what's going on in the disruptive space, to try to figure out exactly how we can take the institutional challenges, especially geopolitically and fiscally, and create solutions that are both appropriate for active leaders and also meet the national public policy agenda.
My name is Jim Robinson. Eli Elkine invited me to come here and speak today about some of the things I've done the last 7 to 8 years in the Marine Corps that fall under the category of innovation. I saw a lot of things when I was in Marine Corps Seaports up there. I did for Marine Corps Seaports in Bellwood. And I saw the lack of innovation. There's a top-down approach that some others have mentioned already. And how it's a bunch of old retired guys that sit up there and use past experiences, and hang on to things like gross analytics, like that's like little baby, or they get their niche things from 1978, and then they go up and become a CTO, a C4, or a student that they think that that's how we should always do business. I spent a lot of time going there, most of my career in technology. Spent most, the majority of my career actually in Afghanistan and Iraq, but I've been out of one net the entire time. I'll talk a little bit here about the differences between maps and where innovation can happen at in the Marine Corps. It's not a 2 map or 2 map, it's a 1 map. But I'll be talking that's give you the whole story from about 2003 all the way forward to today, where we're at and back.
I'm Dave Saunders. I'm active Marine, like JD, probably never met. I was also in Morocco, and really what I'm looking for out of this is kind of the same thing you guys are talking about, innovation inside the system as we are inside the system now. A lot of us here are in positions of mid-level management where we can hopefully try to develop up some of these innovative processes. So I'm hoping to pull from my peers outside the normal infrastructure to get some ideas to pull back into the task.
I'm Jonathan Lieberman. I'm a serial technology entrepreneur. I've never been in the military. I'm here because Paul Wins thought I might be able to learn something from you guys, and I might be able to teach something from you guys about how it works outside the military.
My name is Alan. I've designed a lot of stuff for the Navy. We actually manufacture it. It's all the stuff that's underwater, not above water. Last time I saw military service for all you active duty guys, you guys weren't born yet. And somehow, what I see, the guys at the top are still fighting the Vietnam War. They haven't learned from the in-between. We have to get, motivate people to obscurity before they get back to reality. And what I came here for was to be in contact. I've been gone for a while. I'm the one they smuggled the back door at Star Wars to take all the tax games.
My name is Tom Frykowski. I am one of the founders of a software company called EagleCap Software. We build custom applications for aviation organizations. before that, I was working for a large monolithic defense contractor for about a dozen years, responding to those poorly written RFPs and having tons of fun. But about a year ago, some friends of mine from Boeing, we decided to start a software company and try to be innovative, and doing it full time now. We're mainly focused on commercial customers, but because of all of our backgrounds, we have kind of a foot in both ponds. And we're hoping with all the rhetoric coming out of DoD about looking to Silicon Valley innovators for solve unique problems, that maybe we can help Uncle Sam with some of those problems. But I am cautiously optimistic when I read those articles until we start seeing something. And guys like Eric are hopefully pushing that forward. So he may be the icebreaker plowing through the Arctic and get those waters open for guys like us.
Hi, I'm Josh Awad, former Surface Warfare officer. Left the Navy about 7 years ago. Got an MBA at Harvard, and was in private practice consulting for a while, and then have founded 2 companies since then. And sort of, the latest one is all about bringing some of the best practice tools and solutions from the enterprise world to the Navy with kind of a mobile first approach to a lot of our outdated systems. And so that's why I'm here.
I'm John Harris. I'm a Surface Warfare officer on Wayne Meyer in San Diego. Became particularly interested in the innovation conversation during a tour and looked at the Navy Warfare Development Command. And in particular, became interested in the distinction between the term innovation and creativity. And I think that one of the reasons I like to stay in the conversation is I think we intermingle those terms, sometimes to the detriment of our forces here. And actually, usually to the detriment of our forces here. So, particularly, really interested in looking at the problems we face, especially in the surface fleet, which I see as manning and time, a lot less so products and things like that. So how we can take advantage of the innovative ideas out there and to address those issues.
Great, thank you.
Can I make one announcement?
Sure.
West, AFCEA, USNI West is next week, this coming week at the Santa Convention Center. We will be operating the Club Fest booth, where government, industry, and academia will be solving a problem in that place, basically the Army Cyber Center of Excellence on cyber warfare, and they'll be doing building prototype applications in about 2.5 days. Also, something I'm interested in your feedback on is we're experimenting. We didn't really announce it, this idea of an innovation zone at West, where companies that are startup 3 years or less than 50 people, less than $1 million, something like that, can come at cost basically and demonstrate innovation. And then the idea would be also to open that up to government. But you come and just have a demonstration, not a full booth, but all areas. Interesting in your Fox area, come by and see us at West. It's a big 30 by 50 booth. That's
Great, thanks. And if you're going to West, don't be afraid to drop the DefX and Defense Entrepreneurs Forum and talk to your peers about that as well. So just a couple of quick guidelines about what we're going to be doing today. I'd like to, every time we finish a talk, we're going to change seats. So we can get to people and don't just sit next to somebody you're comfortable with. Also, if you have a question, we're going to keep the talks to about 10 to 15 minutes. We don't want to bore you with people talking all day long. These are great stories, but great stories are told with 3 words. And once the talk is done, we'll do a question and answer. I'd like to ask if you use the microphone to ask the question, and also speak in a loud voice, right? So just the way we're set up right now, technologically, is I've got a webcam over there that Annette actually supplied to Trump Thinkers. So thank you, and that's streaming us live. But we're also recording this to make a nice quality YouTube with that camera and this microphone set up in the lapel mic. So if you have a question, please ask, and then the microphone will pass this around. It's got a kind of a short length, so I might need to stand over here. But ask the question, and then we'll get an answer in a couple questions. Once that's done, probably 20 to 30 minutes in, we'll break off into groups. And if there's an action point you can talk about, or just different ways, just use that talk as a launching point to discuss whatever you want. So we have 2 talks this morning, and then there's a talk or a panel in the afternoon, and then 2 more talks. Are there any other questions before we begin? Okay. So one last time, again, if you're a Twitter user, go ahead and use the hashtag DefXSD, DEFXSD, and we'll see if we can get that trending. So again, without further ado, our first guest kind of exemplifies a deck plate, to use a Navy term, or a junior leader solving things using his creativity and innovation. I'll just use both those terms for that. To make things happen and to make the warfighter more capable out in the field. So he can tell you more exactly about how that worked out. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Jim Robinson.
Okay, thanks very much, Jeff. I appreciate that. So real quick, a little bit about me. So I came in the Marine Corps in 1994. I started off as an infantry officer at 3rd Battalion Marines Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. Became an adjutant for a very short spell, and then went to Naval Postgraduate School, got a master's in computer science, and then became a communications officer in the Marine Corps. So where I started getting some ideas on innovation were right around 2003, specifically around the 23rd of March 2003. So I don't do a lot of PowerPoints. I don't like PowerPoint. I'm a student of Joe Mattis, and he hates PowerPoint. So following his lead, I don't do it unless I have to. You get more by telling stories. If there's any questions going on during the middle, I can say all the questions to the end. Please ask me. I want to make this kind of interactive and keep the dialogue going. If I need more than 10 minutes, Jeff, is that okay? Okay. All right. So March 23rd, 2003, right? Does anybody know what happened on that day? That was the battle in Nazaria, right? So a real good friend of mine was a guy named Dan Whitnam. He was a company commander for Charlie Company, 1st Battalion, 2nd Marines. All right. He pushed up to some place called Ambush Alley in between 2 bridges in Nazaria. When he got to the north side of the bridge, nobody knew he was up there. All right. There was A-10s that were called in. They started scraping all forces north of the North Bridge because the FAC is calling a Type 3 CAS, which means unobserved CAS. All right. They killed 18 Marines that day. The Air Force did. And we rolled up there about an hour later, and I saw Dan Whitman stand on the side of the road in front of 18 of his dead Marines and the slew of wounded, and it just broke his heart, right? So seeing that firsthand kind of drove me to say, we got to fix something like this. We can't let this happen anymore, right? Blue Force Tracker, I'm aware of the Blue Force Tracker. All right, BFT. BFT back then was very, very antiquated. The Army had started the Blue Force Tracking program in the late 90s through something called the Balkans Initiative, right? They had it. We didn't. We were using EPLARs, right? The EPLAR radio, trying to tie those things together to position, location, information, TLI. So they had BFTs. We didn't. So we got them in the beginning of 2000, or in the end of 2002, the end of the war in OIF-1. We started getting a few of them, but not enough to put it in enough vehicles to really have a good idea of what the true common operational picture of how it would look like. So going through that evolution in 2003, seeing the problems that we had, not knowing what was going on, having a fact, unbeknownst to him, calling Type 3 CAS, saying there are no U.S. forces north of the North Bridge in Nazaria, you're clear hot to open up on all vehicles and enemy forces. All right, that's what led to all those Marines getting killed that day. So fast forward a little bit to 2005, I went to Naval Postgraduate School to get my master's in computer science, and decided that my thesis was going to be on interoperability considerations for brute force situational awareness systems. All right, to make sure that we could actually talk to each other, to make sure between the Army, the Air Force, the Lake 16 common operational picture from our aircraft, but all come down into one common operational picture. Now, earlier somebody mentioned the top-down approach to fielding things, right? You know C2PC, right? Piece of crap, right? Nobody likes C2PC, nobody uses C2PC. Everyone wants Google Earth. So what did we do with Google Earth? We started looking at Google Earth as a way to take an existing technology and then take the KML feeds that we needed, put the COP into it, be able to put our battle space overlays and geometries into it, but we needed a radio that could actually move the data. Okay, so I get my thesis done in 2007, and then I go back to headquarters Marine Corps C4, and that's kind of where the innovation started at. So I was a captain at the time, getting ready to put on a major. A lot of people didn't really give captains a whole lot of credence up there in the Beltway, right? Usually you make coffee up there and stuff, pick up laundry for general, that kind of stuff, So I get up there, I'm there for about maybe 6 months, and we have the C4 Awards dinner. I'll mention a couple of names here and stuff. Some of you guys might know, some of you might not. But we're at the C4 Awards dinner, and we're sitting with a couple of Harris Army Communications guys, Harris Radio guys, and they said, hey, we're looking for a BD guy to come work on the Marine Corps team. Does anyone want to go do it? I was like, oh, I'm not getting on the Marine Corps, right? I love the Marine Corps. It's my life. So my buddy Max Green decides he's going to do it. All right, so he gets out, goes up there, goes to the Harrison Indoctrination program up in Rochester, comes back down, and he says, hey, there's this new radio called the 117 Golf that we developed that has a mesh networking waveform called ANW2, all right, the Adaptive Networking Wideband Waveform. He says, this thing's really badass. You got to take a look at it. I'm trying to cuss too much, sorry about that. So my audience should be right. But so he says, we got this really badass radio, we got to take a look at it. And I said, okay, so what's it do for me? He goes, well, you can move large amounts of data. And he said, it meshes together, so it's self-forming, self-healing. He said, it may go fix some of the problems you're looking for in the VFT world and the fratricide prevention stuff. I said, okay, well, that sounds cool. I said, let's take out Camp Roberts, the TNT, Tactical Number Topology exercise, which SOCOM hosted. They or SOCOM was responsible for, but when MPS hosted it at Camp Roberts. So it was like myself, Max Green, and a guy named James Neutral. Three of us sat down with 2 radios, 2 laptops, and a case of beer, and then flipped through the manual and taught ourselves how to use this thing. Because we had no idea how to even use it, right? So we had to learn how to program it, how to build mission plans, and then we started programming it. We started sending chat first. Started sending Merc chat back and forth. And we're like, okay, cool, we can do chat. That's neat. I was like, let's try to do some video with it. So we were parked right next to the stadium with Smudu at the time, which was a Winnebago that had all the servers and stuff in there. So we parked next to that. We plug in a laptop to it, put the video feed into it, and then we started streaming video across ANW2. We're like, oh, this is pretty cool. We do a lot with this. All right? So we started streaming video, and then we started doing chat, and then we started chatting about the video. And we're like, okay, well, now we got something we can maybe use to go back to this whole prevention of fratricide thing. So we see this. We're like, what else can it do? So we break out some of our tactical laptops. We got CTPC, Falcon View, some other things on there. Effectives. We fire up the effectives boxes. Now we start passing fire missions. Well, inside that radio is also a Graham Sasson GPS. Right? At the time, it was only doing personal on target and the Harris proprietary PLI waveform. There wasn't any VMF in that radio. So we were doing personal on target, which I hate because it's really crappy XML code. But we were using that. It was working for us. So I was having video overlaid into Google Earth with my position on it off of that radio. And then I could see the other radios that we had out there, and I could see where they were at. And I'm like, oh, cool. Now I'm starting to get a terrestrial cop that doesn't move at the latent speed of a Blue Force tracker. There's the old Blue Force tracker before the current version, which is getting fielded right now, KBCP. The old one, you'd see updates like every 7 to 10 minutes. You know? So you'd be moving in a convoy, and you might remember this. You'd be moving in a convoy, and you send a simple message to, like, the CO, and you're like, hey, can we stop for chow? And like 10 minutes later, you get a response. Sure. It's like, dude, I said that 10 minutes ago, or stop shooting at me, right? That's even worse, right? You don't want to say stop shooting at me and have it take 5 minutes to get there and 5 minutes to get an acknowledgement, right? So you can't have conversations on Blue Force traffic chat that way. The thing about ANW2 that I love is in the epoch structure of the data packet on that radio. There's 3 things in there, right? So there's the PLI, then there's the combat net radio voice, and then there's the data segments for actual data packets, right? So every single data packet that leaves that antenna has got those 3 things in there, and they die off when you drive long distance. You use straight line distance, they die off in that order. So if you're sitting there running robust applications and doing email and things like that on an ANW2 network, and you drive straight out from one of your nodes, the first thing you're going to lose data. The second thing you're going to lose is that digital combat net radio voice, and the last thing you're going to lose is going to be that PLI. Right? That's the most important part, because that prevents fratricide, right? When a radio comes back into that cloud again, the first thing that's going to pop up is going to be that blue track. The second thing is going to be the voice call, and the third thing will be the data. Okay, so we learned all this. We decided, okay, it does what we want. We ran multiple different evolutions out at Camp Roberts. It grew from the 3 of us sitting out there with 2 laptops, 2 radios, and a case of beer, teaching ourselves how to do it. It grew into me bringing a company of Marines and a whole bunch of JTACs. I don't know what JTAC is, Joint Terminal Air Controller. A whole bunch of JTACs up to Camp Roberts for one map, and we put together like a whole company evolution. Well, one of the things we were competing against was the future ePLARS capability and the new software version for ePLARS. So Raytheon saw what Harris was doing, They retooled and revamped EPAR's waveform and said, we gotta stay in this market, we're gonna lose it to Harris. Right, so we actually ran the same scenarios. We put 2 COCs up, one for EPARs, one for ANW2, and we ran them simultaneously through the same different test evolutions. And they both performed very well. ANW2 performed very well. At the time, it was limited to 10 nodes. People said, okay, that's not good enough. Now it can do 30 bridge and stuff. I'll get that in a second. But EPARs can do a lot more nodes. And everybody thought, okay, that's cool. So what I did, just to be a dick, was I took a 117 Golf Manpack radio, I put it on top of an EPAR radio, took out a black Sharpie, and I outlined it on top of that big EPAR radio. And I wrote 2-man lift on the EPAR radio. Well, that really pissed off the Raytheon guys. And then I put data radio only, you know? And they got really mad at me about doing that. I guess destroying the radio and marking all that stuff. I had to paint it again. But I kept going back to headquarters Marine Corps and talking at the time, you know, Alan, the director of C4. I told him, I said, look, I said, sir, I go, the EPAR, the new waveform is pretty good. I go, but you can't manpack it. It only does data. That's it. It does it pretty well now, thank God. I said, but you're still tethered to something called the ENM, right? Enterprise Network Manager. And if the ENM goes tits up, your whole cloud goes down. You're out of luck, you know? So you're single threaded on this one box, right? So as this is all happening, I'm watching jitters be developed as well, right? The Joint Tactical Radio System. So I'm watching jitters. I'm watching SRW. I'm watching WNW. I'm watching HNW getting developed. And every time I see anybody do anything with that, I go out to visit the Army stuff because they were the proponents of it. So I got to see the Army working on it. And there's all these guys, all these engineers, like white lab coats running around, you know, program radios. And I talk to the soldiers, and I'm just like, come here, Sergeant, when's the last time you programmed that radio? Oh, I can't program that thing. It's too hard. It's too complicated. So I was like, well, then why would we even buy it? You know? I go, A, it doesn't work very well. B, I need to have another tethering box on SRW to actually build the mission plans. I said, it's a piece of crap. I don't want it. I said, I want ANW2. I said, I've got corporals and SARMs that are programming their own ANW2 nets right now, and they're doing it without the help of any engineers or FSRs. I said, that's reality, because when you go to combat, that's what we need. I'm not bringing FSRs with me. You know, Afghanistan, Iraq, a little bit different. Not really a full-blown, all-out war, per se, like World War II, Vietnam, Korea, right? But if they start taking 400 or 500 rounds of incoming a day, you can bet that all the guys making 300 grand a year wearing freaking, you know, 511 trousers are going to go home. And they're not going to stick around when the real shooting starts, when we start losing 40, 50, 60 Marines a day. They won't do it. So we have to be able to be self-sufficient, you know, get off the tit of the FSRs. And ANW2 was the way to do that for us. The 117 Golf was the way to do that for us. Anyways, that's the way we're looking at doing it. So in order to use a proprietary waveform and go against jitters, then we had to convince Dr. Jost at NII, who's the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Network Integration. We had to convince him that this is what we wanted to do, this is why we wanted to do it, and then get his permission, or he wasn't going to even allow us to fly radios. So in November of 2008, then I had to go up and brief Dr. Jost, and he said, well, you're going to bring an untested waveform into Afghanistan. That's what you want to do. I said, sir, I disagree. It's not untested. I said, I've run everything I need to run on it. I've proven that it works. I said, I'm not McAtea. I'm not a full-blown tested agency. I'm just a freaking Marine. At this time, I'm a major. I'm just a Marine major in headquarters Marine Corps C4 that has learned painfully from past experiences in Iraq that what we currently have doesn't meet the mission. I'm watching jitters not work. I'm watching it not get fielded. We're going back into Afghanistan to do the surge. I said, we need something now. I said, it runs C2PC for me. It runs AFITIS for me. I can pass video over it. It runs Outlook and Exchange. I said, I can do email over it. I said, I can make freaking BOSIP calls on it. I can tie it into the NIP of the zipper. I said, I can put it in a PDSS balloon and give myself an ANW2 coverage of 70 to 80 clicks on a 50-watt radio. I said, why would I not take it? And he goes, well, who's gonna go over there and do it? I said, well, I answer it. He says, you're going to take it over there and you're going to do it. You're going to field it. You're going to put how many radios up if you want. I said, 755 radios. And he said, okay. And he said, you're going to go down there, you're going to field it in combat. You're going to train all the Marines on it. And you're going to make this thing work. I said, yes, sir. He goes, okay. So he gave us a letter that I have printed in my office. And it says that we are allowed to use ANW2 in the Marine Corps until such time as JTRS waveforms are ready to be ported here in the 117 Golf. Well, that's very subjective, right? Because for me, as long as I'm on active duty, it's never going to be ready. Because it's way too damn hard to use. So why would I do that and I've got a better way going out there. So we go into Afghanistan. Well, let me back up real quick. How do we get the permission to procure it? Where do we find the money for it? This is kind of where innovation comes in, and a lot of luck of innovation comes in. You have to have the right guys in the right place at the right time, right? So to buy anything in the Marine Corps, the Navy's the same way. You have the requirements guys sit up in the Beltway, right? It's those old retired, colonels that retired in 2005, 2004 that are there now. There's a couple of old dinosaurs still in there. But all these retired colonels that haven't really done anything since they were captains, right, in operation. And since they're like 03, right? Because honestly, I mean, who was the Marine Corps, who was the Navy, right? 03 is 04. The colonel just tells us what to do, and so we report on them to do it, right? So you got guys out there making bad decisions. They don't know what they're doing. And so we got lucky, and we had a guy named Paul Miller. Colonel Miller and I worked together. He was a major on Jackson. He comes back. He's now a lieutenant colonel, picking up colonel. So he's a boot colonel. He was my boss at C4 when we were doing all this testing out at Camp Roberts with the NWA once it's all. So he's up there at C4. He gets orders back out to 1MEF. All right, 1MEF is known in Marine Corps as the warfight MEF. That's where most of our innovation comes from, is 1MEF. The 2 Marines in the room probably agree with that. Right, 2MEF, not so much. 3MEF, they're doing their own thing. And they can't get the frequency anyway to even operate in NW2. But anyway, so Colonel Miller goes back out to 1MEF. And then my buddy James Neutral was out there, the guy I mentioned earlier that did the original testing with me and stuff. He was out there as well. So you had me at headquarters of the Marine Corps. You had them out there in the FMF representing the warfighter. And then we had some other kind of inroads with the guy at C2ID in the requirements section. So having the right people in the right place was good, because the hardest part of innovation, I think, is the inside sales job. Right? So, like I had to do with Dr. Jones, and going up there to brief the Assistant Secretary of Defense, you have to be able to convince him that this is a good idea. I believe in it, and I'm the one that's going to take it, in the neck, pretty much literally, if it doesn't work, right? So, being able to sell your idea, get the right people involved, having the right people in there in the first place, which is kind of luck sometimes. I'm nervous of going to pitch something to a Navy captain or a PS-15, and this team goes, no, we're not doing that. I mean, you're either done, or you find a way around it, or you find a way to sell one, right? So those are your 3 options. You either give up, you can go around them, or you can just convince them and sell it, right? So inside sales for a guy on active duty sometimes can be harder than outside sales from a guy like Harris or GD or NetApp, whatever the company is, right? You guys got a lot more money with Boeing to throw at freaking sales jobs. Doesn't do anything. Product demos and stuff. Doesn't do anything? No? Doesn't work out? Yeah. We look at your demo and we're like, that's cool. See you later. So we get everybody, the right people, the right place, the right time. 1MEF did a message. It was just a statement of urgent compelling need for the requirement that we'd already levied out. And we did a modification to the TRIP 117 Foxtrot contract, right? So it was a multi-channel land pack that Foxtrot was, the office the successor. And we did a 1-page letter of clarification for the requirements document. Didn't know you could do that, right? So we actually did about $150 million on the first procurement with a 1-page letter. So that we figured out ways to circumvent the requirements process, right? The 3,000, 5,000 process, just by doing it in the state of urgent compelling needs based on the PUCO, right? On each operation. So the war was a good thing for innovation because it allowed us to jump through loopholes like that, right? And get things fielded rapidly and have people take a risk on us and believe that we're going to make something work. So we get to Afghanistan, and I found out that we pushed out from the FOBs a lot. The attitude of the war had changed. We didn't have large FOBs. We ended up having more PBs, more squad OPs, and they were still using VHF. Right? So I don't know how many of you guys use VHF times before. Trying to freaking pass a long sit rep, all staticky and garbled and stuff. All right, it takes you like an hour just to pass a patrol report from a squad to a platoon. And then it takes the platoon commander 2 hours to pass the smallest 3 squads up to his company. And then it takes the company, like 3 hours to compile them all together and pass them over voice. Right? It's really a pain in the butt. So we had to push the 117 off a little bit further down than I thought. We had to push it on the squad level. So it wasn't going just down to the company level, assigning company cops. It wasn't our FOBs. It wasn't going up to the platoon level, assigning the cops. And now I got it at the PB level, right, and the squad OP level. So the only way to get out to do that was actually go see them, right? You're not going to bring a squad to see you at Camp Leatherneck, right, which is like Camp Pendleton Forward. You got to go out and see them. So we spent our entire 13 months in the field, out there training Marines and fielding radios. So one of the things that I kept pushing, going back to the 2003 incident in Nazaria, I kept pushing UAS supported fires. UAS supported fires is a concept that Major Newsom and I became pretty passionate about when we figured out that we could pass video over this thing. And we're like, wow, UAVs overlaid Google Earth with GRG. You know what GRG is? Right, graphical reference grid. Right, basically we take a city, we take all the buildings in it, and then we just mark them all off, and then it's like building 17, right? And then the pilot has that same GRG, so you can tell them, you know, if you're taking fire from a building, then you can just say, you know, hey, do me a favor and put a laser gun ammunition in the south window on building 17. And he's like, Roger, got it, right? So he'll figure put it right through the window. Yeah, you can do that if you want, right? He'll put it right through that window for you. You know, so we take the GRGs, we take the video, we bring it down to a handheld ISR receiver, which I procured those as well. But so you got Google Earth overlaid with the GRG, overlaid with UAS video, and then it's got that Gram-SASM GPS that's giving your position, right? So when you have all of that, right? Can you guys hear fire? Anybody? Can we hear a fresh guy? Right? What can you do with that? You can call shift and polar missions off of that, right? Because you know where your own point is at. So you can just work people out all day long. The only way to teach Marines how to do that is by Frac app, right? You can give them this is how I plug into my CF19. Here's my handheld ISR receiver. It goes on Ethernet port. Here's my 170 golf. It goes to my serial port. Here's my CF19. Bring up my applications. You know, layer them out in KNL feeds. You can show them how to do that. But the only way to really teach them how to do UAS support fires is to go out and aggressively find ways to get yourself in a firefight, right? So that's what we did. We would deliberately go out looking for people to get in a firefight with us so we could A, kill them, and B, teach them right at the same time. So everybody wins. So nobody really done that before. Nobody really thought of the idea to actually just overlay all that stuff together. Nobody thought about using Google Earth the way that we were doing out in Afghanistan at the time. So we became pretty proficient at it. First recon, second recon battalion became very, very proficient at it. Third battalion, fifth Marines became very, very proficient at it because they were in the most kinetic zones. So we go out, we'd aggressively find firefights, and then we would work fire missions sometimes for 2, 3, 4 hours off that little capability that we had in that CF19 in that 117 golf, using our PLI to call ship and polar missions all day long. We put sheets on the backside of them, fix them, then we bring it fixed when we kill them. And it worked really well. So ANW2 in the 117 golf was the cornerstone to basically improving the capability to pass data at the tactical level on the battlefield, right? But what else did we learn in 2003? We outran our comms, right? We moved so fast in the rush to Baghdad because 5th Corps and 1 Met, whether anybody knows it or not, were racing to get there. It was literally a race to see who could get the center of Baghdad fastest. So we were moving so quick that we were outpacing our comms, which is kind of how the whole thing started on March 23rd, 2003. We were outpacing our comms. So we said, okay, we can't set up COCs. We're not being able to do what we need to do off of these laptops and stuff. CQPC is a beast. It's a piece of crap. It's been gold-plated by engineers so much and the old guys in the Beltway that it's not really what we need. So we started thinking about networking on the move. There was a thing in the 90s called Condor in the Marine Corps. I can't remember what it stands for, but it's basically a network on the move type capability that was hinged around EPLARC radios and some SATCOM. The limitation, though, was that we didn't have a SATCOM dish, a gimbal SATCOM dish, that we could actually procure for a reasonable amount of money and great quantity. We couldn't do that back in the late 90s because the technology didn't exist yet. So we were limited to innovate in the 90s because technology wasn't there for us just yet. Well, by 2007, 2008, technology was there. So we went to L3 and said, look, we need a gimbal KU dish that we can put on a vehicle, put a couple server stacks in it, and we can run networking on the move. So ANW2 became the cornerstone for that, and that's kind of where I left 1 Met in 2013, and we had fielded out 42 systems for network on the move for NATO, which was something that I wrote the concept of deployment for it, I wrote the concept of operations for it, and then worked with the technology transition office and systems command and actually fielded it. Peloton out of Hawaii ended up winning the contract. We basically took vehicles at the time, Matt Lee's, and we put 3 network enclaves in there, Nipper centrics, tied them into a black core. We had the gimbal SATCOM dish. We had what do you call it? The GPS, inertial navigation GPS system, in case we ended up losing GPS, whatever, ZCAN or GPS LFL guy. That's providing all our autonomy for us. And then I had 2 117 golfs in there and a video scout. So we built that thing through a black core, and then we tied in the tactical level 117 golfs on that. So basically, none of them was like a point of presence force. There was a pop that was in each of the battalions, and I think you guys probably have them over there right now, yeah. So that's a pop. That point of presence, when you come in on the SIPR side, if you're going to run SIPR, so when you come on the SIPR side, you put a gateway golf in there, you tie that in, and now you're giving SIPR at kind of an impact level, and you're reaching DISN and gig services through that gimbal dish on that pop, right, on that mounted vehicle. That's where we were at when I left. One Meth kind of led the charge on that. After I left, then somebody had the good idea that the special purpose MAGCAS were going to go in to take over like AFRICOM and CENTCOM. The problem with running special purpose MAGCAS is that when you have an AO that's about 3,000 miles wide and long, then you have pound problems. And the Osprey has become a workhorse for us. Right? So we've been watching out of MARSOC right now. We've been watching what JSOC has been doing with the CV-22s, the C-17s, and the C-130s, and how they're putting hash mount KU dishes on. So they can actually bring in KU feeds, put a bank of 117 golfs in the back of the bird, and then create an AW2 cloud. So if you can picture a C-130 flying over top at like, say, I don't know, 30,000 feet, and then at like 15,000 feet, you got a fleet of Ospreys carrying a company reinforced Marines in Benghazi, right? They're getting live feeds from the ground up to that KU dish, and then they're putting it down into the aircraft, the mission commander. So when he hits the deck, he knows that it's not 50 guys at that constant office. It's now 500, right? And your first LZ that you're going to go to, your primary LZ has been compromised, and now you have to go to the secondary LZ. Those are nice things to know before you fly into a hot LZ with a helicopter that has no guns on it, right? So that's kind of where One Meth is at right now. First Wing Division is leading that. The Special Purpose MAGCAS are employing it. They're going to have a booth actually at FCO as well. The FCO West, First Wing Division is. So I encourage you to go over and take a look at it. That's kind of been where it's going right now. But it all started with a Manpack radio, moving into networking on the move to the ground side, and then now it's going to the aviation and route mission planning stuff on the C2 side. Where it goes from here, I don't know. Probably more users, more bandwidth. But people are going to start looking. Right now that the birds have a taste for it, they're going to want more. Right? If you give them chat in the back of a bird, they're going to be like, well, chat's nice. Can I get videos? You know, if you give them video, they're going to say, hey, can I get HD video? And then when you give HD video, then what JSOC right now is working on 3D video. They're going to say, I want 3D video. Like, okay. Right? So JSOC's going to lead the charge on 3D video for us, and then the rest of us will reap the benefits of it. Right? They'll give it to CAG, and they'll give it to freaking Devin first, and then they'll give it to White's off, and then they'll bring fund the rest of the Negro get after that. So it'll be about 15, 20 years. But that's kind of how the story of what I did for Innovation Marine Corps kind of ends. I'm going to retire this year, so maybe I'll be able to influence something from the outside. We'll see. What kind of questions do I got? Anything? What's up?
So, hold on just a second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
right. Here's the microphone quick. Sorry.
I'm good with that person. Sorry. All right. So this goes to the lessons learned, right? So to talking about a SATCOM radio to Marines on the ground, it's that's great, but I think the lesson there is just incredible, right? So I think everybody would agree our acquisition process is completely broken. Right? There's a lot of warfighters in the room here. We don't have what we need, and we have a $600 billion pot of money to get it. And how is that possible, right? I think the taxpayers would be blown away by that. So it gets down to, am I taking the correct lesson from that as the vertical integration between? So right now you have people identify a problem, you have people who develop the requirement, and you have people who are actually going to go out and research the problem, so they're going to figure out a solution to the problem, and then you're going to have people who feel it, and you're going to have people who test it, and there's just a million people along the line, 15, 20 years. What I think I got out of yours was the vertical integration between one guy is going to identify the problem, that same guy is going to look and try to find a solution for that problem. Then that guy is going to test that and field it.
I was lucky.
Yeah, I think that.
Yeah, my timeline was just lucky.
But you say that, but is there a way to institutionalize that process, that vertical integration? Because you probably saved the Marine Corps $1 billion.
I would say yes, and so one of the things in the Marine Corps that we do with I didn't go to Harvard, but I did get an MBA at Georgetown. So, but so one of the things that the Marine Corps does is that they send Marines to be able 2 years, and then they have a 3-year payback for it. So rather than farming our west for 5 years, now for comm guys, that's not necessarily a problem. Like signal guys, you know, if we go to MTS and master computer science, we're kind of the lucky ones because we go right back into a technical computer science type job, which is comm. Right? But for all the other MOSs, the engineers out there, you know, the pilots out there, they go, oh, well, you've been on your MOS for 5 years, so you're not competitive for Go 4, you're not competitive for 5. You pass slowly, they come out. They take the smartest guys, they invest basically, you know, a $200,000 education, plus they pay you for 2 years going there, right? A Marine major makes about $137,000 a year at their MBS rates to engage somehow. So they give you basically like $270,000 to pay and a $200,000 education, you invest $500,000. And then they patch you up and throw you out, right? So it doesn't make any sense. We should be institutionalizing things like Naval Force Graduate School, picking out the guys that are out there and seeing which ones are freaking the cream of the crop, which ones have the passion. Because that's the other thing you got to have to be an innovator, right? You have to believe in something. I can't tell you how many hours and hours and hours on the phone and on email and on building briefs. I hate briefs, but building briefs. Just, I mean, it's to do something like what we did with then never on the move. It's hours. I mean, it's like till 11, 12 o'clock at night before your wife tells you, you got to get off the BlackBerry, and you got to get off the phone. When your boss tells you, you can't send an email after 2100, right? Just stop. But that's what you take. Take action. You can identify those guys early, and you can invest in them, you know. But the Marine Corps doesn't really have a process for that. I don't think, you know, I mean, my ability to go from MPS to C4 by payback, then that have the operating forces was kind of unique. You know, I got lucky. And then by virtue of the Marine Corps, I left. You know, so you're right. We probably say anything like tons of time and a ton of money. But our acquisition process for IT, I mean, Moore's Law tells you how screwed up you're going to be. You know, you can look at it and see that we're always building the space technology model. We're always behind the power curve on everything we do. And it's because it's top down. Now, one of these, while I was at One Math, from 2010 to 2013, right, the first 13 months I was in Afghanistan, but after that, then flying home, and Colonel Miller, my boss at the time, the D6 told me, he goes, look, he goes, by the time you leave, he goes, I want Ian, I want Ian to proliferate this now, I want E-Parts out, gone, get rid of it. So, okay. So I spent a lot of time with 11th Marines, with the big C-Bar cruisers, artillery regiments, spent a lot of time with those Marines, spent a lot of time with 1st Marines because they wanted to play. But I spent a lot of time with them in the field. And every time I go to the field for an exercise, Desert Scimitar, or Steel Light, or pick your exercise, right? He's laughing at their outpost and stuff. But every time I'd go out, I'd call back to the Beltway, and I'd talk to the guys at C2ID, the requirements guys. I'd talk to the SysCom guys. I'd talk to the Marine Corps support guys. And the Pentagon, I'm like, look, we're going out for this exercise about 3 weeks or so. Come on out and see how things are working. You're working on the COC story for the Marine Corps. The Marines hate your COC. Come out and talk to them, right? And they never would. Nobody in the Beltway would ever come out and take up on my offer. They would sit there and they would PowerPoint deep knowledge themselves, but they wanted to see how hard it is to reconfigure an MT-2350 or an MT-2011 transceiver for a Blue Force Tractor. You move it from like Afghanistan to Camp Pendleton, and what it takes to actually root provision the satellite service and all that. It's a pain in the ass. And if you don't have the right hard drive with the right software on it, you can't do it. You know, that's a fault. It shouldn't be that hard. You know, programming a CGPC or work with CGPC, it's too hard. Guys don't even want to use it. They don't even work because they know it's intuitive. It's good. You know, that's why guys like CPOM, because it's intuitive. But it's built well. Too bad it's a freaking server piece, 5 servers. But what else? Any other questions? What's up?
Yeah. Oh, we got about time for one more question, and then we'll take a quick 10-minute break before.
What's up, sir?
Small unit operations in Africa and South America. How come they haven't put any of the modern technology, like penetration of triple canopy jungle? Down there, you don't have an orbiting aircraft overhead. Yet they just kind of ignore it.
We don't play that much in South America, so we're lucky there. But no, I mean,
what about Snowcat?
I was in Snowcat too back in the 90s. How do you know that? Oh, you saw you're on my bio.
You don't recognize me.
Were you down there? Really? We'll talk a little bit. That's supposed to be we're doing Snowcat.
That was military.
Okay. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit. No, I mean, we had trials and trials when I was down there during Snowcat too in the late 90s. You know, every time we'd get into a canyon inside the jungle, which there's tons and tons of canyons down the south, you know, where we were at most of the time, we always have common problems. And what we'd have to do is we'd have to basically put, you know, VHF retrans up on the mountaintops, and we have to rely on VHF because UHF wouldn't bend for us, and SATCOM wouldn't penetrate. Back then, you know, we had those stupid dish things that was it the precursor to 55s? I forget what it's called. But
you said the junk.
yeah, the non-working radios that we carried and weighed like 40 pounds. But I don't know. We don't really have an answer for the jungle. We've been fighting the desert for a long time. We've had such good times that I think everyone's getting spoiled.
But until you get over soil that has high iron content, you just quits it.
That's Musa Kela. So Musa Kela in Afghanistan has got so much iron ore in the mountains there that I would watch UHF just drop off, especially around 1400 when the heat would go up and the heater would burn off. Then I'd watch UHF comms just die. And I could see a PV, you know, with my eyes. I couldn't talk to them. I'm like, it's ridiculous, you know. So that's when you have to start using different frequencies. We start using L-band. We start using, you know, we get up into the 1500s or so. That didn't work. We dropped down into the 225, 300 range. That didn't work. We go up to the 5s. I mean, we play with the frequencies. We just don on spot if you're on the battle space, you know. But I don't have an answer for the jungle serve other than consistently set up freaking retrans sites.
I mean, there is technology, but they're just ignoring it.
You should innovate something. I'm directing you to innovate.
There's the whole story.
All right. Anything else? Did I go too fast? Did we keep up? All right. What's up, sir?
Go ahead.
Let me use my.
Sure. You got to turn it on. It's a little switch there.
All right, so you did it once. You're getting out. What's your next challenge?
Continue to do it. Continue to find ways to make things better, right? So I've got 4 tours in Iraq and 3 in Afghanistan. And from those 7 tours, you glean a lot of knowledge, right? So I've thought about what I want to do when I retire. And I think most of us at some point will get to that you know, when you retire from the military and stuff, you're like, what do I want to do? I can take a cushy government job and do nothing. I can take a cushy government job and innovate the hell out of it and be my status as a government employee for yourself. Or I can go to industry and I can find agile solutions to help me make things better and inject spiral development efforts into getting what the warfighter really wants, right? The only way to do that is go talk to them. You can't talk to guys in development. You know, if I was a BD guy working for a pick your company, I would not want to go talk necessarily to some general in the Beltway to say, what's your problems? Because he doesn't know, right? I wouldn't go talk to some colonel because he doesn't know either. I go to Camp Pendleton and I try to get myself in to go talk to some of the corporals and sergeants so they know exactly what they want. We've got the real benefit to having 11 years of war is that we have a lot of guys with a lot of experience right now. And if we don't capitalize on that and capture the lessons learned from those youngsters that actually do go out and fight, they're all going to get out. Most of them already got out. And they're taking all that experience and all that knowledge with them, right? So what did we learn at the end of Vietnam? Most guys just got out. And then what you see in the 70s and the 80s? God, the military is a shitty place to be. You know, no one really wanted to go around paint box and pick up pine cones, but that's what they were doing. We didn't take any of the knowledge or experience out of Vietnam, and we repeat the same mistakes in Iraq and Afghanistan, right? 2 wars that we lost. We lost one in Vietnam too, right? We lost Iraq, we lost Afghanistan. That's a fact. We didn't win them, right? A lot of dead guys, a lot of wounded guys. We didn't win. So we repeat the same mistakes. So what's going to happen now, I think, is that technology is going to, DOD is going to go into sequestration even more, because it seems like the pundits and stuff, the civilians want to freaking just keep taking our money, taking our money, taking our money. The guys like me are going to get out because they've had enough. They don't like the peacetime Marine Corps. They don't like the peacetime Navy, right? Because honestly, I've seen it even MARSOC. It's getting worse. The nickel and dime stupid shit is getting worse. It's coming back again, just like it was in the 90s. So it's this ebb and flow, right? It's going to take another war to be a catalyst for more change. Because if there's no driving need for it, and Congress doesn't see it, you can't do the big programs anymore. So you have to come from the bottom up, right? You have to do small stuff. You can't do the big stuff because the money's not going to be there. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? So you have to start small. You got to talk to young guys, figure out what it is they want. We're going to lose a lot of knowledge here in the next 5 years. Guys are going to be getting out because they don't like the peacetime Marine Corps. All the warriors are getting out, and then you're left with the careerists that just they're yes men. You know, they do what they want to do because they want to get promoted, and that's the kind of wrong guy to keep around.
We have to take a break right now.
Okay.
And then we'll come back at 10:15 to have our next speaker. When you sit back down, find a new spot to sit. Thank you.
There's a question. So I spent my time fighting to go back.
Yes, it's around the corner.
Get shit off for it to my military. So
Yeah.
I got out. So the three things that I work in. The Secretary of Air Force has a champion, but I've been doing this for lots of people. The first problem we got was we were connected to Stewart. Fix it, send it. I said, give me real shit answer. So he said, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Because you get a big program and all this money. I said, bullshit. So that's great. They're charging the obligation for an enterprise message system. So when you're technically talking about I don't know.
Cool, yeah. This is a Defense Entrepreneurs Forum. It's an organization, nonprofit, that was created by military personnel to glean tips and advice from civilian innovators and entrepreneurs how to make how we can change and innovate what they as future promoters. Well, this is it's more like an annual sort of event. So there's the main DEF conference in Chicago here in October, and this is our first. So I might. I don't know if I do or not.
So he said, okay.
Yes, I do.
Do it. You can do it. Security, but it's not legal.
Yeah, most cops are not going to do that. That acronym. We try to say this.
Yeah, but that's not how it's working. Just next to you saying, but you could do it that way. How far that you can't have actions of industry.
Yeah, yeah, it's always like, let's find. Yes.
So the last time was
yeah, so you guys are welcome to come in if you want.
The idea is
This is a daily event, but
operational
like, if you want to, we got website entrepreneurs.org, and then
I have right, cool. Right. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get it so you work around the acquisition. What we did is we spent a secret sauce mapping it so but it's legal. But what we did is we're packaging up on other transactions. So it stands up to everything. But the idea is this: if you can create those operational metrics right there, it's not based on points like let's do SWR or whatever, but operational metrics instead of getting errors separately, if you can put them together.
Holy smokes!
No, plug in whatever you want. We're going to look at the plug. So instead of having two people, what you have is what you have, which was the other thing.
What do you have right now? I have one.
That's for all those saying,
yeah, it gives more time to track.
And then the idea.
Yeah, because like I mentioned, I really been planning on yeah. But, yeah, so 15 minutes and then we can chat and if questions go longer, that's fine. Obviously, I'm not going to jump in there. I'll do a quick one. Okay. I wish I know. Sorry. Okay. That's because I get all the okay. Yeah, I should have made that clear. All right.
And if that works, then we'll pay you to do it. But the idea is a series of these spirals. Because otherwise it's open. I mean, I used to so the original version is we have this piece, we've got that. It should still work because we solve the same problem. Yeah, the whole key is you don't have to, if that benefits you, you do it. Because the way we start working on this.
BJ's tweet said that the Timber's in a bad place. Yeah, I switched. The first part of it was pointed up over here, so I moved that. He said it was suboptimal. I don't know if you guys are still listening, but hopefully it's looking better now. And part of it's just my laptop is junk too. I think that's really the problem.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Hey, Tim's right. Josh Marcuse back a few weeks ago.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah,
Yeah, he would say, thanks for bringing us together.
So one of the other questions,
Yes.
So yeah, San Diego is a great place. You have the university, Spaywar is big. Oddly enough, Josh is the first guy at Spaywar in a long time. I think that's done a really good job of connecting the warfighters. It's the only place in the state where the concentration is Spaywar. So naturally, there should be a lot of interaction. He's done a really good job.
But it's easier. You know what I'm actually good right now.
Oh,
I don't think yeah, when we're emailing, there's no
Strong line. He is on the west coast.
And after that, what is this? Or
I think it's looking for somebody to lead it. So if you're interested in that, it's not like it's just being able to schedule once a month or once a month.
Yes.
And just give me time. But if you want to put something like that together, okay.
Yeah, definitely be interested. I mean, that's just getting situated.
I'm deploying my group. I won't be able to make it to those but I'm happy to come when I can. Yeah, my ship is doing testing in the Gulf.
Thanks. That's kind of like great to meet you. Right after that, you write down. No, when you go flip, it updates the warehouse, it updates that, so if it's that important to you, why not? You want to copy The other thing you mentioned is the training. So last August, Cyber Index, what we did is we took 9 soldiers, divided them each into 3 dogs and sets it down and solve the problem. And the guy said, I just want to design training. Okay, but that's not the problem. The problem is here's a 3-phase mission. You don't get this information from here to there. The mission craps out. So your job is to have this information. But I designed it that's great. Use everything you know. So just play whack. So not every people and the network guys. I know we don't even know whether it's us. The network doesn't work. We just start looking. That'd be really helpful to know. So and it's open book. So they start calling. How do you get a signal? How do we know that? So they built this application and they went up. So could you help us? Sure. So the demo they did was jam, there it is, there it is. And then another one who was in Afghanistan, here gets jammed. So we would send something in radio to drive 3 miles this way, drive 4 miles that way. And so she asked, what is it that we need to do? How do we do that? And she figured out that you could triangulate with the radio station. This just gave us all that stuff. So all the time. So around 4 o'clock the first day, she goes, this is taking so these guys attending the jam. There's interesting That's the kind of thing they get. So they go to stuff that automatically detects it. So what do you do? I know. And what I like to do is Yeah, but I got this. So now I'm trying yeah, because 0% anybody plays the device. It's not like there's 4 of us that don't trust the 4 of us. You've got slide your seat, please. Let's go ahead and get started. Can everybody move around? Get a spot. Find the person spot. Perfect. Yeah, like 50% of people. All right, so our next speaker is Marines in the back. What's that? Yeah. Sometimes I'll get louder though. All right, so thanks again. So my next speaker, I just mentioned him, I was talking to Dan earlier, as probably the leader in connecting with the warfighters on the waterfront. We're unique in San Diego here that we have a concentration of fleet sailors and SPAWAR in the same city. And you'd think that would mean there's a lot of cooperation between the two, but unfortunately we're still kind of strangers. The guy behind me, Dr. Josh Quigley, has done a great job in breaking that barrier and talking to warfighters and getting them involved, because, and I'll tell you why, but the SPAWAR engineers, they want nothing better than to make stuff that works for us. And we want nothing better than stuff that works well and works easily, as Jim was saying earlier.
So part of that is having a conversation. And my guest behind me, Dr. Josh Quigley, has led that conversation. He's going to talk a little bit about what to say. And just a last thing, you've heard me say his name a couple times. You can look up on the screen. It's Quigley. So if you think of like the Tom Selleck movie where he was in Australia, Quigley Down Under. You remember that? So it sounds like Quigley, and I'll never forget it. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome Dr. Josh Quigley.
Thanks, Jeff. So let me explain exactly where that name comes from. But first, I wanted to do a quick introduction. I'm a husband and father. That's really the most important thing. I got a PhD from Brigham Young University in electrical engineering. My dissertation, I have a little picture up there of what I did for those 4 years, which is to take optical fibers, they're made out of glass, so I removed a portion of the glass and replaced that part of the glass where the light normally travels with a special material that would make it sensitive to electric fields. And so that was for high power microwave weapons testing. Because it was glass, it was all dielectric. That makes it so it doesn't ruin the electric field. It makes it more accurate. And I have 2 daughters here. You can see Elena and Myra. We're in the process of adopting Myra. That's my wife, Candace. And then my last name comes from Norway. So I've got a picture down here of the area where it comes from, southwest of Oslo, southeast of Oslo. And then here's my grandfather and his second cousin, Olaf. In Norway, they spell the name this way. In the US, we changed it to Kvavle, but we still pronounce it sort of like the Norwegians. When they say it quickly, they say Kvavle. We say quickly. So anyway. Today I have a quote up there that I'm going to read in a second, which is, we are fulfilling this quote today in terms of the Defense Entrepreneurs Forum. And so let's read this. Most of the great cultural shifts started with the choice of one person. Regardless of their position, these people first changed themselves from the inside out. They possessed an anchored sense of identity, discovered their strengths and talents, and used them to meet needs and produce results. People noticed, they were given more responsibility, they magnified the new responsibility, and again produced results. More and more people sat up and noticed, and the culture was drawn to them. I believe that that's what Defense Entrepreneurs Forum is. We here today are evidence of Ben Coleman standing up, talking about something he noticed and need, and then he tried to find a way to fill that. What I'm going to explain today is my own somewhat smaller scope process of finding something that was needed, and then trying to do something about it, and what happened then. I think that we can take this message too today from what I'm going to describe as my process of going through this. And as you're listening, think about what's one area that you think you could identify as a need, and what can you do? Something small, get some results, get more responsibility, and that's how innovation, that's how leadership occurs in practice. So this is the basic problem that I noticed about a year into being at Spayware Systems Center Pacific. Let me back up a little bit though. So we all, as scientists and engineers at SSC Pacific, we come with a great foundation of technical knowledge, but we don't understand the first thing about what warfighters need. And that's what this quote describes. A hiatus exists between the inventor, who knows what they could invent if they only knew what was wanted, and the soldiers who knew or ought to know what they want and would ask for it if they only knew how much science could do for them. You have never really bridged that gap yet. This is Winston Churchill in 1916, almost 100 years ago. No surprise, right? Probably was true before that. We still haven't figured this out yet. And it seems surprising to me. As Jeff said, we're the only, Spayware Systems Center Pacific is the only warfare center co-located with a major fleet concentration area. If anyone wants to have solved this problem, it seems to me that SSC Pacific should have done it. And I hope that in the next 30 years, I will help that become true. One of my missions is to make what science can do for the warfighter a reality. So how did I do that? Well, I realized that I didn't know what I was doing. I found some other people that also recognized they didn't have the first idea about what to develop for the Navy. We got together, we started having monthly meetings. They were just forums. We invite speakers to come in and talk about sort of the soft skills of science and technology, which is S&T here in this acronym, Grassroots S&T. It was a grassroots movement, innovation from the bottom up. You're gonna hear a lot about that. And we figured out that there are basically 7 categories of job functions that scientists need to do in the Naval Research Enterprise, and this extends to Naval and DoD as well. 1 is to understand the government S&T environment. 2, learn warfighter needs. 3, develop ideas to meet those needs. 4, get money to do that, need funding to develop those ideas. 5, perform the S&T work. 6, communicate results. And 7, transition technology. So the first one of these lessons, we had several workshops that I guess I'm going to talk about sort of the evolution of those things. So the learn warfighter needs, that was actually, well, let's get into it. Learn warfighter needs 1. There were no warfighters present during our Learn Warfighter Needs workshop the first time we did. We're going to teach about how to learn warfighter needs, but we don't know any warfighters that we can invite to come along. We did invite some for lunch that day, so it was an all-day workshop, and we said, okay, well, we're going to pay for lunch for them, so I'm sure we can attract some sailors if we can offer them free lunch. We had 5 warfighters, 1 at each table, with more than 50 technologists. And those warfighters, if you watched it, they didn't have time to eat. People were asking them questions, and that was actually, to me, and see, you can see here at the end of it, after lunch, we had each of the warfighters that was present get up and share something for 2 or 3 minutes about what, just share with the whole group. I think that was probably the most impactful part of that entire workshop. And I think part of the reason for that is that we all recognized that our job was to do something that we were really ill-equipped to do. We didn't even know how to determine warfighter needs. This is a question that we asked the workshop participants after the workshop, or before the workshop, and that is, how well do you understand how to determine warfighter needs? I've superimposed on here a normal distribution. That's how the questions were normally answered. We had a variety of people who participated, some with more experience, some with less. And for the most part, most questions were sort of average. You had some that knew better, some that didn't know as well, but it was sort of in the middle. This one you can see is skewed to the left. Most people have not at all, or maybe slightly, an idea of even how to go about finding out how to determine what a warfighter need is. So fortunately, a few months after that workshop, I found out about something called the Pacific Rim Innovation Symposium. It was going to be held at SSC Pacific in the auditorium, and that's where I met Jeff. Jeff gave one of the workshops for the second year of Learn Warfighter Needs. The grassroots S&T community continued to do workshops, and we invited him to come along, and he gave one. We talked about maintenance cards, which actually, ironically, continues on. We're still working on them. Another thing, we met with Tech Solutions. They came, we met with some of those folks, and they gave us a VTC brief. And they talked about enhanced visualization, and I'm going to get into, basically, these 2 things have set a trajectory for some of the projects that I'm still working on today. Jeff asked me, have you ever heard of Ben Coleman or San Diego Disruptive Thinkers? I hadn't. So now I have. And so then we started getting involved with them. The Navy Warfare Development Command was also there at the Pacific Rim Innovation Symposium, and they are the ones that are administering the CRIC. So from that one event, it was essentially an inflection point, which is what this illustration is meant to show. It was a change. We were sort of going a certain trajectory. We were trying, but then that particular event, people getting together, like these the Defense Entrepreneurs Forums, these events are the types of things that can connect you with people that can answer the questions that you have. And that was critical to us. We also found out about the CNO's Rapid Innovation. So the third year, I guess I should mention that then after the CRIC, I was on my first CRIC trip. Dave Nobles was invited to come and brief it was Idea Fest, that's what it was called. Idea Fest in Norfolk. And that was the first time that I had been invited to come along and participate in a CRIC event. Dave Nobles and I were teamed up to go drive around and try to figure out what the highest point in the Hampton Roads area was. We didn't win, but he told me about this media project, which he's going to tell you a lot more about later. And I was like, are you kidding me? In San Diego, he's doing this stuff with sailors, and we've got all these scientists and engineers that are trying to innovate from the technologist side, and he's coming from the warfighter side. It was just perfect. So we connected, and I started going to the Athena projects. As a result of that, we developed a strong collaboration between USS Bedford and SSC Pacific. And last January, we had Learn Warfighter Needs workshops where we did sort of tours and get to know you in the morning, and then a design thinking workshop in the afternoon where we paired a warfighter up with a technologist. And we had about 50% warfighters, 50% technologists. And are you gonna talk more about design thinking later?
I'll talk a little bit about it. I mean,
so basically, you get to know what the person really needs. You try to figure out how to articulate that into a problem statement. Then you develop an idea. Then you prototype it. You try to come up with as many ideas as you can. Then you down select one that you're going to prototype. And then usually you give some briefs and you pitch it. We had people vote on the top idea. And that's a picture of the winning team here. I have a video of it. I don't have time to show it here, but if you want to see this, it's perfect. The chief comes up, he talks about the problem, and then the technologist said, well, chief, I have your solution. And he describes the solution to that problem. It followed the Hellmeyer Catechism, if you're familiar with that, where you need to describe what the problem is, why it's hard, what's your solution, why will it work, and then separate milestones. This project has been submitted as a proposal for internal funding, didn't get funded, but it kept going. It has now been selected as an ONR Swamp Works funded project. So that idea, there wasn't any money involved. We didn't have a promise that the winner gets this much money, but this engineer took that on himself to try to find out how he could get that idea implemented and funded. And this is a picture of all the sailors and technologists together. I love that. That is exactly what the Navy needs and what the DoD needs if you want to transition technologies. You need sailors and you need warfighters. And the reason for that is because no scientist could hope to fully grasp the military phases of the problem. This can be attained only as a result of a life spent in close association with the sea, with naval tradition, and with the responsibility of command. Yet it is equally true that no naval officer can be expected to grasp fully the implications and trends of modern science and its applications. This requires equally forcefully a lifetime spent in science and the personal utilization of the scientific method. With the exception of Jim Robinson, this is probably true. He did innovation himself. That works too if you get the right person in the right place at the right time. I think our naval research enterprise is organized such that this is going to be more true more often than a warfighter having all the knowledge that they need to be able to implement the technology changes that the Navy needs. This is Vannevar Bush. He was the director of the Office of Scientific Research and Development during World War II. Here's another quote that I love too. This picture is actually different people that are represented here, but it's the same thing. We've got a warfighter and a technologist. With the Manhattan Project as a model, which had General Groves in charge, but working in a complementary relationship with Dr. Oppenheimer, they saw the need for a technical institution that would bring together both naval officers and scientists. Such an institution would combine in a daily working relationship the knowledge of the weapons needs of the Navy and the potential of science and technology to meet those needs. This is Dr. Colbard describing, he was a technical director of some of the warfare centers, describing some of the history of how the naval warfare centers were created. And this is a picture of Admiral Rickover and Dr. Lyon, who were responsible for creating the submarine Navy as it is today. Another thing that Dr. Colbard said that I think is a very good way to put it is laboratories must be the intellectual impedance match between the art and craft of war. That's the job of the Naval Warfare Centers. Scientists need to understand what warfighters need. I'm currently, having experienced all this, it's been great. It's opened up my eyes to a new way of working. And from what I've heard from my peers at SSC Pacific, it's one of the most enriching experiences of their jobs to be able to rub shoulders with those who are going to use their technology. None of us realize they want to do that. And innovation happens best when you're giving your heart, mind, soul, and spirit to the work that you're doing. Connect well with the end user. So I got to go brief CNO on a project that Lieutenant Simon and I are working on with Google Glass. And we got a lot of input from the Benfold on that. What an opportunity. The Navy today has realized that it cannot do what it's been doing in the past. There's things like the third offset strategy that's come out for the DoD, which is that we need to take advantage of our innovative capacity as a country. The SecNav's memo on task force innovation is another effort that we're all cautiously optimistic about will actually have a positive impact. But people are realizing that this matters because things are changing too quickly. Our acquisition system is a very low slope linear process. It takes 30 years, 20 years to get something into the fleet. Science and technology is not moving that slowly. And that gap will, if you imagine a line coming across here, you can see that the gap will continue to increase. We need to be able to do things faster. We need to do them right. We need to do them so that the warfighters can use them, so they're integral in that process of developing the technology. And that can happen when people take initiative and when we start developing trust with one another. Trust is the primary reason, or distrust, I should say, is the primary reason, in my opinion, that we have the acquisition system that we have. All of those rules have been instituted because of a lack of trust between whoever's in charge and whoever's supposed to be executing it. It's because we don't trust people to buy the right things with a credit card. We don't trust people to find the best technology that they can find. That needs to change. How do you build trust? You get to know people. You get out there. You meet with them. You work together on something. And if our warfighters, our end users, do not have a connection with the people developing the technology, there is not trust there. I asked the first leader of the CRIC, the first, I guess, CRIC director, what do warfighters think of technologists? He said, honestly, we didn't even think about you. They don't really even know or aren't tapped into this whole naval research enterprise that's supposed to be supporting them. And that is our own fault. So if we could take the initiative, one person doing one thing and gaining additional responsibility because we've shown what we've done, that will change the entire culture of the Navy. It's happening in many places, including DEF, including Athena, including the CRIC, including Task Force Innovation. And on the civilian side, I don't know if there's any other thing like it in the Navy yet, but I hope that it will happen. We're starting to export it to our sister organization, and I hope we'll start getting and inspiring these civilians to connect with their warfighters, and we'll start making a difference in a positive direction that way. Any questions or comments?
Let's get the microphone out here real quick. Thanks, Josh.
Comment on this particular slide. If you notice, it's logarithmic scale in there, and in spite of it being logarithmic, there's still a curve in it. And this is what the eventual, if you look at what happens with this, you wind up with technology getting to the point where the processing capacity exceeds human, not very long. And then what do? You wind up with work-fighting machines that are smarter than people who are trying to teach them.
Excellent point. What you mentioned is that this is an exponential of an exponential. That's exactly right. This plot's taken from the Singularity University sort of slides. I know Ranger as well. Yeah. So exactly. So the Singularity, that's when computers and humans have the same processing power. And there's people that debate whether that calculation is right. The point is, things are accelerating fast. If we're still using Windows 98 or Windows 2000 technology on our destroyers, we're not tapping into the full potential of technology to help us make the right decisions. We need people to be creative. We don't need their bodies as much as we need their minds in the 21st century. A buddy of mine on the CRIC said the other day that we're building the best industrial Navy in the digital age. That's exactly what we're doing. We don't want the best industrial Navy. We need the best digital, the best machine age Navy in the machine age. And you can't do that if you don't have the people with the right knowledge. And things are more specialized now. So while while some things might be possible as a sailor or Marine or Air Force officer who's doing the commanding and all that stuff, they need to know how to lead, that sort of thing. But you won't be able to understand what the newest machine learning algorithms are because you just can't keep up to speed with everything. That's why you need these teams.
With some background experience with program management SPAWAR, we actually brought in users. Every 2 weeks we had fleet sailors come work on the system. We didn't tell them, what do you think of our system? We said, start with the workflow you want to do and tell us where you start and make changes. So every 2 weeks we got a different set of sailors. Are you doing anything like that to actually bring in the sailors to actually work on the systems at SPAWAR?
I'm not yet. I mean, with the projects that I have, yes, but I'm just a small person now in my organization. I'm a bench scientist, so nobody reports to me. But people are recognizing the importance of that. It's hard to get sailors' times a lot of times. I mean, case in point, last week we had another Learn Warfighter Needs Athena Think workshop. Something happened on the event book and they couldn't attend it because operationally they're required to be there and do their job. And that's the right place for them to be. But we've got to figure that out. We've got to figure out what, I know sailors, maybe this is not true, tell me if this is not true, but sometimes on shore duty, when you're a warfighter, you probably have more time than when you might be doing something that's not really utilizing your full capacity, I should say.
We call it passing out basketballs.
Yeah. During that time, why would not we invite them to come and be attached to, at least part-time, the units that are the technology units that are developing the technology that they're using 5 years, 10 years, hopefully, 30 years maybe even. We could involve in that early on. There's basic research that still is going to take 30 years before it's ready for prime time. But why don't we do something like that? And in my branch, since I'm in a sort of a research branch, we don't have any warfighters. The only sailor that comes into my branch is the ones that I'm inviting because of this stuff that I've had the fortune to be exposed to.
The invitation. The invitation is a key factor. An invitation to come meet with us, is way different than you talk to us about this problem. So first step, can we talk more? So the invitation is very important.
Yeah, completely agree. And I'm looking forward to finding out more about PlugFest because I hadn't heard about that yet. So that's going to be good.
I had a very unique insight. You brought up the Pacific Rim Innovation Symposium. I helped organize that as the flag aid craft at Navy Warfare Development. 2 years I was there. I watched the birth of the CRIP, I was in the meeting where we came up with the name for CRIP and all that. It was very frustrating 2 years. Because as a SWO that was onshore duty, about to head back to the department head, I knew that a lot of the stuff that was going on there was not innovation, at least by my definition. That's why I brought up earlier the difference between creativity and innovation. The innovation that needs to happen is on a daily basis. On the ship, you mentioned sailors, eventually something comes up and they got to be where they're doing their jobs. I can tell you, I innovated twice this week with my sailors. One of them was a planned innovation to fight a shipyard. Ship was moving to the shipyard. We had to move the ship to the naval base, and they didn't want to rig the brow the way we wanted to. They wanted to put the brow from the pier to the barge, our berthing barge where we move all of our sailors and our officers while we're in the yard. We wanted to have the brow running from the ship to the barge. And the reason is we wanted to save ourselves 4,000 man-hours of force protection watches. Because if we run the brow from the pier to the barge, we have to stand and watch there, and we have to protect the barge. Whereas if we run it from the ship to the barge, we've already got force protection watch there, and we can save ourselves. We don't have the manpower those 4,000 man-hours would require. So I was fighting for 2 weeks, personally at my level, and I'm now upper management on the ship. I mean, it sounds kind of bad, but this ought not to be my problem, but it was. And I spent a lot of my personal time getting that worked out. Completely told it would not work. This is not how shippers do this. I got called son a lot. I got the guys with beards, you know, and hard hats on, and son, this is not going to work. Well, we'll see. This is pretty simple stuff. I mean, I was out there with a tape measure. You know, senior lieutenant, you tape measure, you know, out with my guys trying to figure out how this was going to work. On the verge of working. This was planned innovation to do this, and their tugboats couldn't get the barge to where we needed to be to make this magical thing work. Imagine my shock that my idea wasn't going to work. They couldn't make it work. So with my salty bosun's mates out there, we rigged the line to the barge. We rigged it to our aft captain and we towed the barge closer to the ship.
Nice.
Completely unplanned. It was in the moment. I was yelling down to the guys with beards that called me son. And they were like, "Not going to work." I said, "Hang on, we'll rig a line." And we did it. And we towed the barge in close to the ship so that we could lay the route. That was instant innovation. Innovation to me is solving an identified problem. Force protection man hours we couldn't support. And then in the immediate moment, oh, this barge won't get close enough, so we can't magically lay the route the way we want to. And we fixed it. We got it done, and they laid the route, and it was perfect. And it was, it was probably the shining moment of my week when the guys that called me son were like, "Oh, I guess it worked." And they walked off. Of course it worked. And then my captain walks up behind me and says, "Take pictures, take notes, put this out to all the other ops officers on the waterfront. This is going to be the way that every ship that comes here from now on is going to do it. Because who's going to want to put those 4,000 man hours to work?" So my point in saying all this is you mentioned having the warfighter lunches and coming over there. To me, from the view I had, Pacific Rim support team was a flow. It was a failure. It really was. And sometimes you have to, as I think we all know, you have to have failures in innovation. It was a particularly interesting failure since we had Admiral Haney speaking at it, but via BTC, and he was staring out at an auditorium full of scientists and like 3 guys in uniform, one of which was me, that I had to be there. And I was sitting in the back, like, my goodness, this is, the reason you didn't have sailors there is we don't have time. And that is what we're shortfall. We're not shortfall really Google Glass, we're not shortfall a lot of whiz bang things, we're short time. If we sat down for a beer, I can tell you about the week I just had. I just do not have the bandwidth to do anything else. I'm just trying to survive and not drown, figuratively and literally. So we need outside help, like you said, and you guys are there, there to do it. And I appreciate what you said. Who wants to work on the shelf stuff? I would like to see you guys come to us. And I don't know if that's something that's doable or something in the realm possible, but I have this image of you guys being running mates with us and being on the ship and just watching what we do. Not necessarily formalized meetings and conferences, but just sitting there and watching the 3 different databases I had to go to yesterday to update my service record, and was completely unsuccessful. 3 different databases to do it, and just sit there and watch what we do and say, that's stupid. Here's the way to fix it. Because honestly, all we have time to do in the day is go pound our fist, say some bleak things, and say that effectively mean that's stupid, and then we have to go on to the next thing because we don't have time. And I think that would be a very useful thing. I think what you guys do is great, and you can be a real big help to us. We can find a way to get you to the fleet. Because I think while the first step, you guys fighting warfighters, is a good step, I think probably the more effective step is getting you to us.
Thank you. Great point. And that is something that I know that my peers would love to do. That was one thing actually. So I tried to set up, as part of all this initial stuff, I tried to set up shift tours that would be more useful than just the Scientist to Sea trip. I went on Scientist to Sea, that was useful, but it wasn't prepped in a way that people knew we were coming, that we were there to help them. They see government civilians as maybe part of the problem, right? and maybe we sort of are. So once the Benfold is out again, I'm planning to make sure that the contacts that I have on the Benfold invite me. They used to have science officers on the ships. I want to be Geordie. I want to be the Geordie of the USS Benfold. And like, is there a pin for that? I mean, Could we not have something like that? You know? But Scientist to See is a good start. And that's something that introduces engineers that have the first idea about what the Navy is to the fact that you're up all night. I mean, I loved it. It was one of the best experiences I've had working for the Navy. And I'd wake up at 3 in the morning just so I could go like hang out on the bridge. And they sort of just let you do that so you can watch. But you really need people to know, okay, I don't have time, but at least if they know you're coming and what your expertise is or something like that, they might be able to help more. Dave set up something called partnerships, which I think has much more potential to address that sort of thing, you know, in the future if that's expanded and directed toward that. I'd love to do the Tiger cruises. You know, you hear about those, and that's a thing that could be done as well. But yeah, very good points.
So I applaud you for your effort. But one of the things I noticed from some of your pictures is a lot of those faces were very young. And I've been over to Spainmore, and a lot of the faces, unfortunately, are not as young as you. What has been the acceptance of the upper management, the department heads up to the ranks, to what you guys are doing, and how much support are you getting? First question. And then also applaud your optimism. So maybe end with, do you think that it's really up to your generation to really fix this? Or do you think that you're going to be able to pull those guys down into your enthusiasm and make this happen in the short term rather than the long term?
Okay, so we have good management support. My organization is, all my leaders up my chain are good. There are some that are not in my organization. I won't name names, but me in particular, I've been allowed to do this, encouraged to do this, and I would say that's a better gift than they can have if they've done it themselves. Because one of the things that comes out of letting the youth of your organization, empowering them to make changes, is that they will take that perspective with them as they grow up within the organization, and that will be the culture. I think you change a culture by changing the people that come into it. It's harder to change people's minds that have been there longer. Did we not invite the older people? Yeah, sort of, when I was leading it. I just targeted the people that I knew within whatever capacity I had to invite people, to just invite those people. I didn't try to expand it too quickly because I was afraid that if I tried to make it too big and involve some of these people who have maybe stronger opinions about how things should and shouldn't be done, that we would lose some of that early on. However, we're at a point now where it's been accepted as a permanent part of the organization, the Grassroots SCT community. They've committed to fund it because it requires funding. Here's something others may not know about civilians working for the Navy is we have to have a project that pays us for our time. It's illegal to actually do something that we're not funded for. So in order for this to have happened to the scale that it was, beyond just like a lunch meeting, we had to have funding for a project, and they funded that. So they've supported with money, with support, with encouragement, everything they can do, I think, to support it. We've got that support. Now, as for will we pull them with our optimism? My experience has been the leaders, the admirals, the department heads, the SESs of the Navy that I have run across want this for the most part. They all want it. Even people who I felt like, before I had a chance to talk to them, were making policies that were actually counter innovative, like against what I was trying to do. When I talked to them about this, Admiral, the Admiral Spainmore, who's retired now, Pat Reagan, he was the Admiral during 2013, which was probably the worst year for government civilians in maybe ever. I don't know. And then when I presented this to him, he said, "That's wonderful. Keep doing that." So they all want it. They don't have time for it either. And how can you can't mandate initiative. You have to cultivate an environment that allows that to grow up when it is there. And that's they pour the water in, they let the sunlight in,
They built a greenhouse around it, but they're letting us grow the way that we are trying to do that.
Thank you.
All right, cool. Thank you, Josh. So we're going to take a break for lunch right now. I think we have an hour and a half scheduled in. So are our sandwiches here, or are they going to be right there? Oh, wonderful. Okay, sandwiches are over there, and help yourselves. Okay, we're gonna take a lunch break. So if you're actually watching this, I'm gonna stop the broadcasting. Try this link again, and if it doesn't, if I needed to make a new link, I'll put it up on the DEF Facebook page and everything else. Thanks.